Okay, recording.
All right. Yes. Man, it's hot up here in the studio. Crikey.
Is that where you do your music?
It is, yeah. I always wanted a room dedicated to it. I said when I stopped engineering that I would get some gear and do some stuff of my own. And I
Mm.
did eventually. It took a little bit longer than I planned, but I got there in the end. If I'd known all those years ago what I would have now, I'd have laid an egg.
I know it's crazy. It gets out of hand. It did for me as well for a while there. Yeah, I see what you mean. We both got the old short hairs this time. We had long hair. The first time we saw each other, we both had long hair.
In sync again, right?
Yeah, there you go.
This
So
is a fast haircut.
yeah, mine's getting there too, but it's all good. It works with the sun actually, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, exactly. It's good for the summer.
Just in case anyone comes across this, they're going to wonder who you are, probably. So
Who am I? Yeah.
who is Howard Fox? So when I was a kid, basically, my first band that I ever did, Howard was the guy who ended up being the engineer. He worked at a studio called River Studios, and it was my first experience with recording, recording anything. So I was thinking about it earlier. Actually, me and you actually go back further then. Like I always think of Jeremy as like the oldest person that is still in my life today, but actually,
Yeah.
because like me and you have reconnected, it's actually probably you because I met
Oh,
you.
you're not in touch with Jeremy, no?
No, no, I am in touch with Jeremy, but I'm saying other than him, like I
Mm.
always think of him as the one that goes back the furthest. But
Yeah.
actually, you go back further because I met you. Would it have been mid 90s? My first band.
Yeah, definitely round about there. Bit of a
That's
blur of my life, if I'm honest, that part of it, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of a blur. Then obviously, I'm not going to talk about that old band, that first band, but I just find it fascinating that we liked you enough, or I liked you enough that I made sure we got you to do the first Area 54 CD that we did.
And
Um,
thank you for that, yeah.
that was amazing, and bloody
I
hell,
should have warned you about this cough I've got that I've had for 10 months now that just only seems to come up when it's least wanted, like now.
what is it? COVID? Was it from COVID?
I think I got it when I got COVID, and then COVID went and the cough stayed.
Oh shit, that's
Mm. It's tickling like hell at the moment. Sorry.
that's all right, mate. All right, so yeah, I'm not just going to talk about 54. Obviously, I want to talk about quite a few things, but yeah, I just would be interesting to say like that's where we started mid 90s. I mean, I must have been about
Yeah,
15. How old would you have been then?
90s. 18.
Fucking hell, I looked at you as such an adult.
I really wasn't.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about
So,
18, 19. Yeah, I
right.
was very young, and had a large interest in rock and metal myself. And having played drums when I was a bit younger,
Yeah.
that was the sort of stuff that I used to practice to, and a lot of speed metal, a lot of thrash, and so on. I started getting into other stuff later on, but it did mean that if rock and metal bands came along, I was kind of like more the guy to do that because it was more in my background. The other engineer we had, Kevin, who's a brilliant engineer, was a real indie guy. So
Wow.
if you were like any of that kind of indie rock, the one, the real sort of middly sort of lo-fi sound, he was absolutely the guy for that. So we kind of started to specialize a little bit.
That would have been. It would have been. Was his name Joel, the guy who
Yeah,
had
Joel ran it. Yeah,
right? So he was the guy who would have said, "I'm guessing we'll recommend this guy for your band because of the style." Then I'm guessing because I remember
yeah, usually.
he had a chat with the band before we actually recorded. I remember that, and
Mm.
I didn't really understand what he was saying at the time, but he was saying like you guys are competing with, Metallica and blah blah blah. And I understand obviously now what he was trying to say, but back then I think it just kind of went over my. I just heard Metallica, like.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
it,
I don't know. I was never privy to those conversations, so I don't know what he said.
I think he was just kind of prepping us, like just. just making us try and realize like you are competing with, this is what you're competing with, and maybe just trying to get us in the frame of mind you have to be in, because he knew we'd never recorded before.
It's the whole genre thing, isn't it? So, I mean, if you play a particular type of music, then yeah, I suppose that puts you in direct competition with everyone who's already doing that type of music. But at the same time, rock and metal are types of music that have a real loyal following, as I'm sure you know now. And at the same time, if you can do it to a good standard and get a bit of a name for yourself, then people will like you, because they want more of what they love. You were never sort of like, no, I'm all right with Megadeth, I don't want anyone else. It's like,
Yeah, that's
somebody
true.
mentions a good band, you're going to listen to it. So it's kind of like it's a pro and a con at the same time, really, isn't it?
And the funny thing is, if I think about that first band, like I had a listen when I decided to go back and look at, because I blanked off everything and I basically stopped doing music. And when I decided I was going to kind of look back at my history, I realized that it actually went further back than 54. And I went and found that CD of that first band and listened to it. And just like, there's some like interesting couple of riffs I can see that I'm starting to figure shit out, but it's not, it's not a great CD. I listened to it and I spent a lot of it going like, oh my God, like this is embarrassing. And then I thought, fuck, Howard didn't say a word because he's just been professional doing his job, recording this young band. He's not going to say, listen, you suck. But
No, my job was to try and help you do the best that you could, and capture what you did, get it accurately, and try and encourage you to do the best, to get the best take possible, and not have that whole red light fever and the fact recording it's costing money, that can really just kill music stone dead. Like, it's an artistic endeavor. It's about a feeling, a vibe, and it's about feeling confident in that. And, we're just going for the best thing we could. I think if you're honest and you listen to some other people's first demos, and boy, if you heard mine, you would laugh. It's not available. And I'm not.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if you look back and you didn't think, oh my God, then it would show that you haven't improved, which would be more of a concern. If you just listen to it and thought, this is perfect, 30 years.
I thought it was pretty mad that you could come into the age 15 and be playing like that, It's not, from a guitarist point of view, it's not an easy kind of music,
I think the biggest letdown. Well, I mean, some of the songs weren't great, but the biggest letdown was the vocals. For sure, I could just sound so young, but at least I tried. And the actual quality of the recording though is actually great. I've wondered, I might actually use AI and see if I can strip it apart and try and do something interesting with certain parts.
It's never been easier to mess around with old recordings, has it?
No, it's wonderful.
Stem split them now as well, without having to hook up the original multi-track and split it. You can just get AI to stem split it and see what you can do with that.
So I could sample some stuff, and I'm definitely, it's just an exciting thought. But anyway, so then after that band, I guess we had a year, I don't know, it must have been a year or two after. And then I got this new thing together with Jeremy, and we came almost straight in as soon as we had a band. Came straight in to record with you again, same studio. So basically, same studio, entirely different band. Just the only person you knew was me, and we went and done that Fear Inside EP.
If I'm honest, I mashed the two sessions together a bit in my head because I still think of your brother a bit.
Okay.
And obviously, that was only the first one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did we use the same studio for both ones? We were in the big studio for the second one, weren't we?
I thought they were both River, but
no, I mean there was the main Studio 1, which had the big live room and then a vocal booth and a second smaller live room, and that was all in one bit. And then down the far end was the second studio, which had a smaller control room, and it had a stone room and a live room.
Okay.
And I know we used both.
Right.
Because there were two recordings that we did together, and there were little bits of overdubbing and corrections that we did before mixing as well. So I'm not sure if the first one was just a little studio and the second one was the big studio, or it was a bit of a mix and match, because sometimes you'd maybe track the band in the big studio and have everyone play together. And then you only really need the smaller studio if you're just doing, lead overdubs and vocals and stuff like that. You don't really need the more expensive, big live room and so on. So I know it was a mixture of the two, but I don't remember what the split was exactly.
Yeah, no, okay. No, I don't either. It was a great studio though. It had a good vibe.
It was. I liked it. I liked it. It was. I think it was in the following the queue of the studios like the Strong Room in London that were quite leery to look at, because there are two schools of thought about what studios should be, and a lot of them seem to think that it needs to be a neutral space so that you can do any kind of music in it. So they're all quite bland and kind of pale taupe colors and things like that. And then there's the other school of thought that think that a studio should have its own vibe, and they go crazy and have it, decorated to be really quirky and unusual. And that's what River was like, deliberately. And I think it was inspired by the Strong Room in that respect. And yeah, it was colourful.
It was lovely.
It did have a vibe.
It was really nice. I mean, every time I go to another studio or did go to another studio, I kind of always compared each one with the others to see, and yeah, that was the vibey one, which was really nice actually. Obviously, like I say, I didn't realize that it would be so different. You think everything's going to be the same, like all studios would be vibey, and it just wasn't that way. Some of them are just like a room, and most of them are just.
Some of them can be quite bland, can't they? They could be a bit.
Yeah, it's just the stuff in
anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've recorded in some great studios, but that was the fun one. And maybe part of that was the age as well, because it was all new and, exciting, and kind of disappears over the years a little bit.
Yeah, you can't get that back, can you? That sort of young, wide-eyed, wow, this is cool.
No, but
because I felt a bit like that too.
Well, at the time,
well, maybe not quite at the time, but when I first started working there, I was, all very impressed. And I remember the studio wasn't originally there; it was in Stonebridge Park, and it was smaller. And then, business did well, and we moved into central London, and that place was built, deliberately. So, we designed the size of live rooms and the layout and stuff like that, and then moved down there when it was ready. I remember the first time I saw it, I thought, wow, okay, yeah, this is a proper studio now.
You come from a different time. For me, I started on, I had a little 8-track that I didn't really know how to work, and I recorded at home, but my real first thing was Cubase SX3. So I get to start from this digital, I get to start from this place where you can press Control Z and undo something, and you started with actual 499 reels. Was that your starting point, I guess?
Yeah, 2-inch tape, analog 24-track 2-inch tape. Although we were running Cubase on Atari STs, it was like an ancient version. It was an ancient version of Cubase. It was like black and white on the screen. We didn't use it much because the studio was more geared towards live music and recording instruments. But yeah, we still had time code on the last track, and we could sync up the computer if we wanted to do some sequencing and so on. There were a few things I worked on that were computer related, or at least synced to stuff on tape, and a hybrid of the two. And we did introduce some hard disk recording there as well later in the day. But
okay,
I don't think, while you've still got big 24-track reel-to-reel machines, it's not the only real impetus to sort of move to a digital recording is track count. Because, there is a hard limit of 24. Yeah. But beyond that, everything just sounds so much better on tape that there's not much reason to move over. But we did run both for quite a while, and we did have Cubase in the studio. But I didn't see Cubase SX until I'd left engineering and was building my first machine at home. And that was the first version that I put on my own computer at home.
How long was you doing it for before you become a professional engineer? I don't really know how you get from that one point to the other back then.
Been about 5 years, I think.
Right. So you probably started in 1990, something like that.
About then, yeah, I had a friend that was working there, and we were both studying engineering. I wanted to go to the School of Audio Engineering in Holloway Road, and he'd already been there and had already got a job engineering. He said, "Why don't you come and assist me?" So I did, and then he just didn't want to do it anymore and quit. And so, Joel said to me, "I'll tell you what, you play in a band, bring your band in and record them. And if you do a good enough job, I'll let you do some work for me." So I did, and it was good enough, and I started recording then. But even before then, like he did like to have me in for drum sounds because I'm a drummer and because I knew how to tune a drum kit, which is surprisingly rare amongst amateur drummers. How the hell do you not know this? But he used to like get me in to help him get drum sounds on stuff, just because I knew how to make the drums sound better and he knew how to make the recording sound better. So it was kind of like a good combination. But yeah, I started making tea like everyone else does, and then but I'd already been studying, reading all the books that I could. And then I was tape opping, so I was running the tape for Kevin originally. And if there was he was very trusting, actually. I got a lot of love in my heart for Kevin. He would let me do some very timely drop-ins, when you're patching bits and there's a little bit that you need to capture and it's a bit quick in and out. Because I was a drummer and my timing was good, he would let me do that. And I remember, dropping in a whole drum kit to patch a mistake in a take that was really good otherwise. And I did manage to drop it in and out, with, I think it was about 9-10 tracks of drums, just putting in 4 of them, drop in, another couple drop it in, and managed to get in and out. And it was almost inaudible. So... wow. Yeah, I started tape opping and I'd line up the multi-track. I'd do the test tones at the front and stuff like that. The boring work, getting the little screwdriver, making sure that when you play the tones back, you've got the same level on every track and so on, and then the same frequency. And miking stuff up. And, we used to talk about engineering all the time. It was a real passion, we'd read all the magazines, we'd know how Butch Vig set the microphones on Nevermind. We knew it was a Sennheiser MD421 straight in the middle of the cone, SM57 at 45 degrees, and you get the blend right in them, and you've got middle from one and top and bottom from the other. We just loved all that stuff. We always talked about it. And gradually I just started doing more and more work myself. And then when we moved to the new studio, my mate Gavin used to engineer with us as well then, who played bass in both the bands that I was in. So we had 2 studios, so we needed more engineers anyway. So, it started off being the 3 of us and ended up just being me and Kevin most of the time.
Well, I was going to ask about that. I remember that, again, like you, it is a bit meshed, the 2 bands that we recorded together, but there was a guy who was assisting, I assumed was assisting to you back then. Was that Gavin?
No, that was probably Guy.
He was a very nice chap, and I don't remember much about him, but I remember
he's a really good bass player.
Right. Well, I remember one story he told me. Obviously, me being me, I asked the question, what's the worst thing that's ever happened in the studio to you? Because they're my favorite stories, And, I something I took further. I'd always ask these engineers, and they tell me some amazing stories. And he told me, do you remember this? He said the story about where he can't quite remember how he put it, but like he thought he was arming a track, but he actually thought he was rubbing over something as well. He was recording something else. Yeah. And he was just sitting there thinking, oh, like shit. But he had to wait to find out. And he said, I remember him saying, I was thinking if I've rubbed over this drum take or whatever it was, I was just going to have to get my hat and coat and slide on out of the studio. And I never forgot that. Do you remember that stuff?
No, it sounds familiar. But yeah, I think I know the kind of thing he means. Where you think because you know with old tape machines, you wind the tape on, you zero it, and you just use the counter to know where you are on the tape until it's just flapping on the reel at the end.
We have
So I
it
mean,
so easy now, don't we, compared to then?
yeah, yeah, it's a lot easier. Especially when you do backwards reverb and all of that stuff. You used to have to
Yeah.
take the tape upside down and remember that all the track numbers are reversed and record an echo and then turn it the right way back up again so that you get that effect where the reverb is before the original sound.
Right.
So much easier to
Wow.
do it now. Just
Like,
reverse,
yeah,
chord, reverse.
unbelievable. I know we've really got it made when even when I was going through those 8 tracks recently, a lot like my little 8 track recordings, and I was like mixing something because I wanted to record it into Ableton so I could have a solid, a digital copy of these old things. And I
Mm.
remember as I was mixing, I did something, and I literally just by habit, I went to undo something. I went, oh shit, I've got to do it myself, and I couldn't just undo something where I moved a mix or something, but it's so ingrained now. So yeah, kids don't know how lucky they are compared to like the studio from when I came to record.
It's funny you said that about Guy though, because it was. I'm still in touch with him. But only slightly, and he's very much now not interested in the technical side at all. He
Right.
plays bass. He's been in the band almost ever since then. They still tour now. They were on Ninja Tune for many years, and now got their own label. But he still plays. He still does like the summer festival season and so on. But whenever I hear him interviewed now, he's got absolutely zero interest in the technical stuff and how it all works, and that is just about the music. I'd almost forgotten that he did actually that he was assisting there, and actually doing all that stuff because. I've got a funny feeling if you asked him to now, he wouldn't know how. A long
I'm,
time ago.
I'm just curious if you remember anything about that lineup that come through. Like Glenn was on bass and Dan was on drums, and obviously me and Jeremy on guitar, and that Jeremy was doing the death metal vocals, and I was doing the normal vocals. Do you remember anything?
I remember that it sounded quite different. It was a lot stronger.
Mm.
I think you see the thing with this is you were doing so many things at once, right? So I mean, you were a guitarist. I'm sure you identified as a guitarist. Um, Finding a decent singer is not always easy, right? And particularly if you're doing rock stuff, you need a certain type of singer. And so again, like James Hetfield, you kind of fell into it the same way, didn't you? And it's like, well, there's no one else here, so I'm doing it. So you've got all of that on your plate, and that's enough, really, isn't it? If you think about it, especially when you're young and you're striving for sort of a level of, your heroes are people who technically very good, right? So you've set yourself some high standards, and then you've got to learn to write as well, and composition and writing songs is. I now know that I didn't get a chance to do much of it until I left engineering, but that's a whole journey in itself. Completely separate to any kind of playing an instrument or singing. And maybe you can listen to your early stuff now and think, it feels a little bit uncomfortable because I don't think that's good enough. But as a start, to be doing that at that age is actually pretty damn good, really.
Well, see, when I listen to the first band, yeah, I kind of go, oh God, like you feel like, oh God, I hope no one hears this. There's that initial feeling. But when I listen to the Fear Inside thing, yeah, obviously I sound young, we sound young, and blah blah blah.
There's
But
nothing wrong with that.
I didn't feel embarrassed by it. I kind of thought,
Yeah.
you know what, I'm quite proud of this because it was only a year or two after that first recording we did together. It was a huge leap from the one to the other.
I
So,
seem to remember that you took the vocals in your stride a lot more the second time round.
right, I guess I knew what I was trying to do. I didn't even know on that first recording.
Yeah, well, you were always this mixture of energy because you were really happy to be doing what you were doing, which is one of the best things about doing a job like that. When you meet people under those circumstances, you're gonna see the best of them because they're like, this is what I love and I'm here doing it, so I'm in a good mood. But there was also a bit of nervousness, and I think the energy won out in the end.
Well, you were so lovely to work with. I know I said this on Instagram and stuff, but you really made the whole thing easy, and I felt it was really easy to come to you and say, ask questions. If I needed reassurance, I could ask
Mm.
you something, and you just give me a simple answer, no fucking around, not making me feel like a knob. Some did make me feel like a knob down the line, like
Really?
no, he was a nice. The one I'm thinking of when I say that, he was a nice guy. He was fucking brilliant at his job,
Mm.
absolutely amazing. But he just wouldn't give you a straight answer. He'd have to make you feel a bit stupid first. And he wasn't even an arsehole, it was just his way. But it's like,
Mm.
I can't help but compare all the engineers. All of them were great. So after you, we went with for the next record. So we got basically after we did. I guess you don't know anything because we kind of fell out of
Not
touch.
really. No, I know you got signed, and then that's it. Your where you record and who you record with will be chosen for you. Surely
Right. So
you get a choice between various options.
so we did chat a little bit after the Fear Inside. I came to see you a
Mm.
couple of times and hang out with you a little bit, and it was lovely.
Mm.
But then obviously, life and blah blah blah, and just kind of fizzled. But
Yeah,
after
and you got busy.
straight after that recording, obviously we knew Dan was going to leave the band because he always was going to leave after that recording. But
Mm.
straight after that, Glenn developed the bassist developed an issue with Jeremy and kind of put me in a predicament where I had to pick someone. And
Yeah, and Jeremy was your bro.
yeah, at the time I wish I could. I've said this before on other recordings with
Mm.
Laura and stuff, but I wish I could have handled it better. But I didn't like that feeling of an ultimatum, like him or me. And instantly I went, well, him then, And so now Glenn went, so now it's just me and Jeremy, and
Yeah,
we pieced together. And then we found this bassist Laura, who I still work with now.
yeah. I mean, she from what I can see, she occupies a large part of the history.
Large part. In many ways, though, she didn't help the band just as a bassist. She helped the band in me and the band in many different ways. She took many different roles, you could say, and keeping the band going. So she was absolutely, she is absolutely amazing. But so there was a brief bit where we had Jeremy, and now we had Laura. And Laura went to a party and she bumped into this. She met this guy called Rob, who ended up being the drummer, and that was what. I mean, I doubt we have any fans now, but that's what the fans would have called the classic lineup,
Right. Yeah.
What come after. So straight after you, the entire band, it just become me because after we got Rob and Laura, Jeremy started to lose interest. He didn't like Rob's drumming. I did at the time, and he was losing interest. He wanted to be in heavier bands like death metal, and he went on to do like bands like Garroted, like proper way too. I like them, but it's not what I would want to do.
I like them too, but it's very niche, isn't it? It's they're like metals, but it's a massive market because America for the main reason. But death metal as a part of that is quite a small percentage of that overall group, isn't it?
They sent us to record with this guy called Mark Daghorn, and it was just. If you were because you were such an amazing experience, it was the polar opposite, and it was a real wake up call. I was like, why is he not being like this, and why is he acting like that? And certain things, and I can't remember what they were, but certain things I'll be thinking, that's not what Howard said. That kind of meant. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, I know that's not true.
What was he like? Was he hostile? Was he not supportive? Or
the label done something really fucking stupid. They paid him all up front. A lot of money at that time, back in 1999, 2000, I can't remember the year, but they'd been sending loads of bands to this guy, from what I heard. And my band, 54, were the first one to actually bring it up with the label and say there's a fucking problem with this guy, with this engineer. Like there's a problem. He's fucked up the recording, and I could tell by having what we've done with you that it was going the wrong path. It wasn't sounding as good, but the budget was fucking enormous. What we did with you was on a shoestring budget. So why does that sound better than this one?
Yeah. Was he trying to plow through the sessions a bit quick as well and just go, yeah, that'll do. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that will do. So it caused problems with that lineup. Now we had Adrian in the band who replaced Jeremy, and Adrian was really upset about it. But it really traumatized the whole band. Adrian left because of it. That's how bad it was. I didn't realize this until recently why Adrian left. Me and Adrian have reconnected and become
Mm.
good mates. But at the time he left because he just it was traumatizing to him what he went through. It was traumatizing for me as well and everyone, but we all handled it in different ways. But he basically just sort of he gave us a really bad recording, really fucking bad. I tried to warn the label, but the label had a go at me. And I was like, oh, this is not going well. So now the owner of the label is telling me off for saying there's a problem with this guy. But
Mm.
as it went on with after that, they actually just they dumped him because they realised that I was telling the truth. I wasn't
Yeah, it's
being
probably too late for you though, right?
absolutely. And then
Yeah.
I had to deal with all the reviews saying, you know, it's this and it sounds that and blah blah blah. I'm like, dude wouldn't let me do a second take. You know,
Mm.
imagine saying like I need to
Yeah.
re-record that vocal and the engineer saying no, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm telling you, I need to redo the vocal. I'm still traumatized.
Yeah.
The beauty of
That's
it now is that I can
difficult.
remix it and kind of do something with it because we got all the reels brought over
Yeah.
to digital. So at some point, I've released Fear Inside on like Spotify and stuff, and I'm going to work on the No Visible Scars, which was the follow up, and get that out, and then follow the other stuff up, and just get it all out and kind of be proud of it, and just fix it for the band, and maybe try and heal some stuff for everyone.
Oh, that's nice. It's good to be able to do that. I know I would want to do the same thing, really, in your position. I mean, you know, it's very, very rare that people just bang out their best take just like that. But I mean, you know, you should be allowed to do that. It's your time, and both of you, in theory, both of you are working for the same person, right?
Right.
You were peers, employed by the same person to do the same thing. Only one of you's got a vested interest in the long-term product, you know, what comes out of it, whereas the other one clearly didn't seem to care much. It's a difficult job at that age to turn around and go, you know what, this isn't right. And you know, if I want to do another tape, I'm going to do one. All right. And you're going to run the tape and stop arguing about it. And also to be able to turn around to the label and stand up for yourself and say, this isn't right. This is a mess. Shouldn't be this way. We're getting a crap result here. And it's a crap result for you as well as us. We need to sort this situation out and be persuasive enough, you know, at that age, being quite green to persuade the label that there was a problem, and it didn't happen immediately, did it? It's a real shame. Sorry to hear it.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Imagine if he was the first one, wouldn't have known any better. I'm
Well, I
gonna.
always thought we're going to record this, and they're going to be listening to this forever. You know, they will hear there's something wrong with it. It's not like you're going to hide it from them. And we always wanted to get the best, you know, result we could, because you know that's how you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, it was
Quite
really.
proud of.
Fuck, I forgot to hit record. Sorry about that.
Oh shit. So
Sorry.
yeah, I stayed there for a while. I carried on working, learning, doing the best stuff I could. There were a few things that I was very proud of doing, but I had a falling out basically with the owner. So I mean, all of that work I was doing there was all very 0 hours. You know, it's just like you worked if there was a session, and if you didn't, you didn't. And it meant that you never really saw anyone because we're always working weekends. Because you know, especially when you're recording bands who aren't professional, or even when they are, you know, weekend sessions are always the first to go.
Okay.
So you know, you've always got your downtime when everyone's at work. You know, I hadn't gone on holiday for quite a few years because I just wasn't earning that much money. And it came to a point where there was a disagreement, basically, where I was on holiday and I got a call saying, "Where are you?"
Oh, shit.
It was one of those. So I mean, we could probably disagree, me and Joel, about how that happened and whose fault it was. But you know, I was miles away. I was never going to be able to get there and pick it up. So he was not happy about that, and I stopped getting work as a result.
Shit.
I think he
Okay.
maybe he felt like he needed to punish me after I supported his business for a decade. Um, but either way, he pushed it a little bit too far to the point where I needed to get a job. I needed money, and so I did. So when he did come back and say, "Oh, I've got a session in. Do you want to do it?" I said, and it was in a week. I was like, "No, no, thanks. No, I've got a job and it pays many times what you pay me. So I don't really want to take the hit. Thanks." And
Okay.
that was kind of it, really. Now, at that point, I did think about it. So, we're talking about the late 90s here. Rave and DJ culture is everywhere.
Hmm.
And all the young people are wanting to get a job in music technology somehow, if they're running lights, DJing, working in recording studios, doing live sound, even just roadieing and rigging. Everyone wanted to do that sort of thing. It was very popular, and lots of college courses were getting written, so that people could be fished in to study that. And at the same time, the technology was developing, as you know, um, to be more accessible. Hard disk recording had become a thing. If you had enough space, you could just record at home. And yeah, you might not have all of the really good equipment to make it sound really good, but what you had was time, because the biggest problem in that old school way of recording was just the clock was always running. It's costing
Yeah.
money, and there's a limited amount of money always. So it's always a rush to get a result, which
Even
yeah
for the
is
band, everyone just felt
yeah
it, you feel it bearing down on you all the time,
yeah.
don't you?
I always felt it because I had a responsibility, not to waste people's time and give them the best result in the time. So we all felt it. And if you're trying to do something artistic, right, that is the absolute antithesis. It's going to make you feel like you can't go, right, the best guitar solo you've ever played, now go.
Yeah.
If anything's going to make you play like shit, it's that. So you have the benefit of all the time in the world. So I was seeing like the technology is evolving towards less work for major studios, and sure enough, that has been borne out. The number of huge studios that closed over the last decade is silly, because that business just isn't there anymore, and people don't record music like that so much anymore. It's all recorded at home. Maybe you mix music like that for major releases, but the day of all all studio work being done in the studio, and anything you did at home was just a demo and it would be thrown away. It's just nonsense now. So yeah, I figured there'd be more competition for work and a hell of a lot less work. And I thought, you're still young, there's a chance here still to do something else. And so I retrained, and I did what so many people did and started working in IT,
Oh,
and optical networking and stuff like that. I mean, it's still very much me. I was always about gadgets. You probably remember that I loved all the gear in the studio. I loved messing around with that stuff. And when I was young, and I thought the same thing about IT. It's like equipment, international connections and stuff. It's cool. So I did that, and it pays a hell of a lot better than music.
God, yeah, anything plays better than music.
Yeah, and yeah, and I stuck with it, and I'm still doing it now. But the idea was always, this pays quite well. I should be able to get some gear and be able to make some music now, and I did, and then I finally started doing stuff for release a few years ago, about 5 years ago now.
Okay, so at what point so obviously you went on to do other stuff, but what point did you end up back in sequencers and specifically Ableton? Because we're both Ableton fans,
Yeah, I was a Cubase user initially,
same as
just
me.
because that's what I could get hold of.
Okay.
Um, all my software is legit now. I bought it, but back in the day, maybe things were a little bit more moody and hard to get hold of. So, but Yeah, I found like a lot of people that using a computer and a screen and a mouse for making music just didn't really do it for me. You know, I am a drummer. You know, I want to mess with stuff. You know, I at least want to turn a knob and hear something changed. You know what I mean? So I'm very hands on, and so Ableton came along with, I mean, I started off with MIDI controllers that I could use to control soft instruments, without having to look at them or click on a screen. But then Ableton came along with push and said, here you go. You can do everything that you need to from this dedicated instrument. It's completely tied into the software. You don't need to look at the screen. It's like having a sampler, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It's also an audio recorder, it's a sequencer, it's a keyboard, and I thought that's what I want to do. I want to use things like that so that I can record electronic music, but I don't have to do it using a screen, because I find that just kills the mood and you end up with boring, repetitive loops, and it just goes nowhere. And I kind of stuck with that approach, really. I've still got push right here. And I've got a ton of other controllers and things that I use. Sometimes I use them live. And yeah, I had to learn about writing songs.
So how long have you been producing and stuff in Ableton, would you say? Because I went from SX3 Cubase to Cubase 5, and then I jumped to 8, 9, and just literally, as you know, 12 a couple of months back.
I did a similar thing, but I didn't get quite as far advanced with Cubase. I switched to Mac as well at one point, because I used to build PCs using Windows, and I used to use software on that, but I got really pissed off using Windows and having the same old problems and stuff, and I just wanted stuff to work, because I wanted to stop fixing computers and start doing music. I got really fed up with that, so I switched to a Mac and started using Logic for a bit. That was a pretty easy switch, because it was, it looks the same, the layout's the same, all right, there are different hotkeys and there's a few different things that are different. It wasn't hard to learn. I used that for a while. And I bought that because I wanted it to be stable and not crash all the time. And it was stable and it was very good. But when Ableton came along with the controllers and everything, the whole idea of not being tied to the box and the screen and so on, I went for that. And that was about, I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. They were on version 9, an early version of 9 at the time. 8 was just going to bed forever, and I never looked back. It was a little bit of a change because it works slightly differently.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's never been easier to learn stuff like that. There's more tutorials than you could ever watch or need, on the internet now for learning to use these things. And yeah, I think it took a good year to sort of really become very fluent and quick with it. But
you've got your production down. It sounds, what I've heard from yours sound bang on, really. Like you've clearly honed in on making it all sound.
Yeah, I know what I want it to sound like, and I know how to do it. The challenge for me is all about writing and getting it done.
It's funny,
in combination with a busy life and so on.
Right. I'm a good writer, but when I know I'll just say this bit again because it wasn't recording, but I ended up in the drum and bass band, and that's how I learned how to produce. It was by working with those two guys in the drum and bass band. I was still a metaler at the time, full-on metaler. But I saw this guy, Andy, he was absolutely, I'm sure he still is if he's still around, but he was absolutely phenomenal, just an amazing producer. And I saw how good he was, and I basically badgered him. I was just like, you've got to show me how to do some of this stuff. And eventually he said, okay. And he wanted to see if I could write something, and I wrote something, and then he just said, okay, you're on the firm. And I went around every week I could not keep up. The dude, every time I saw him, there was a leap from the last time. And for me, it was like I was just slightly better. So I could never keep up. And so everything I did always sounded shit compared to him. And I was chasing and chasing and chasing. And then after a few years, I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'm really just miss just writing. Like the producing thing kind of bogs me down. I do like doing it to an extent, but I release some stuff as Enki Noise. You go, if you listen to it, you'll see what I mean. It's like, it's not amazingly produced. You know, they might be okay written, but, you know, your sounds.
Not everything is. Sometimes, you know, rawness is part of the whole thing, you know.
We're in luck then, because mess. You know, it's interesting though, because you're saying that the producing thing is like, you got that down, but the writing was your issue, and mine was a whole lot.
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I could always write songs, but I mean, I struggled with, you know, them being a little bit too repetitive, and you know, you can tell I've been an engineer and a producer in that sense, because everything I write is very vertical. It's very layered.
Okay.
I soon got a reputation for having amazing sounds and many layers, and being a bit of a maximalist, which is a vibe, and it is that is part of what I do. I've tried to step away from that a little bit with longer, more evolving bits, you know, less repetition, and try and make each part do more rather than layering things on top of each other to create those so that they fit together like a jigsaw, which is what I liked to do initially. I liked to sort of have kind of like, if you called it a riff, it was split amongst a load of different sounds, and it was only when you put them together that it kind of started to make sense as a whole, you know. But I soon sort of got a bit fed up with that and wanted to have something a bit more meaningful. I think I was listening to a lot of post-classical music at the time, where everything is like linear and it doesn't necessarily repeat at all, you know. And I started getting more interested in harmony and how parts can change the feel by altering a particular note, you know.
You tend to write journeys. Your music is it's not like a traditional song. It's like a journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of them are like wedges that are like, I write the end part first, and it just kind of builds and builds and builds and builds up to that, and then that's the end. So I don't like to always like take a traditional A-B, A-B, A-C, you know,
right,
type of arrangement. I do like to mess around with things a bit, or even, you know, have just an A arrangement where it starts and it does something and then it finishes, and there isn't even an A-B sort of thing going on.
So how long have you been Eonlake? When was that born?
Oh, I know this one. I don't know, actually. I'd have to look at my first release, which is probably quite a while ago now. I reckon 8 years, something like that. 2018 was the first release. Wow. 5, 6, 7 or 8 years now.
You've got quite a few things out there, I see.
Yeah, I mean, not everything's on the streaming platforms. And I did get a few things on labels that don't exist anymore, and, you know, little bits and bobs. I wouldn't say it's found a massive audience, but I was never part of the grind culture, chasing stats and so on. I was more just, I do this because I love doing it. I don't think I could not now. The idea of selling all this and not doing it anymore is horrific to me. Although everybody wants to be appreciated and all the rest of it, that is secondary. I do love this stuff that I've got. I love messing around with it. I love writing songs, and I like mixing a lot. Okay. So I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to see where I can go with it. That was always the plan.
I'll put a link up for you so that if anyone watches this, they can see what you do.
Yeah, if you like electronic maximalism, mixtures of ambient and slightly more beat heavy stuff. Yeah, I deliberately didn't do a type of genre music. I mean, another stuff I really like is psytrance and stuff. I used to listen to a lot of that in the late 90s. There were a lot of clubs I used to go to. I didn't want to do anything that was that pigeonholed myself. I wanted to be able to just, if I wanted to do something incredibly laid back, I would. And if I wanted to do something, distorted and fast, I could, So I just went, right, it's going to be electronic. And that's all I'm saying.
All your stuff sounds like you, from what I've heard. I mean, all right, granted, I haven't heard everything, but
yeah, I was kind of happy with that. I hoped that just having a sense of taste. I don't mean like I've got taste and other people don't, but what you are is a combination of everything that you've heard and everything that you've loved in the past, and all the sounds on your gear that you like, and the other sounds thrown in the bin. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's everything that you like through your lens, and hopefully, even though you might do very different songs, the fact that it's an expression of whatever your aesthetic is, it will have a sort of identity of its own. And it also, the fact that I tend to have habits, like musical habits. So there are things that I do that you can often hear on various songs, even if they don't sound similar. There are some techniques in there that are the same. But that's fine. But yeah, it was kind of accidental. I hoped it would happen, but I think it does sound like me, all of it, to some extent. Couldn't tell you why. I try not to obsess about things like that, but yeah. Well, it was all me that did it, so I suppose it makes sense.
How long would you say it takes you to get a track? I know that some don't always work this way, but generally from the idea to finish.
It varies immensely.
Okay.
The best stuff is really quick.
Really?
Is all I can say.
Okay.
Although, good stuff can happen in over a long time. The songs I like the best are the ones that just come out really quick.
What's really quick though then, if you were to finish one?
Well, really quick for me is not really quick for someone else as well. I think it would be, it would be weeks. But it would be a period of weeks from the first doodle to it being finished and mixed. But the actual writing of the song would just be like a day or so.
You go through the same crap I go through, where you export a final and then something's wrong, and then you have final 1, final 2.
Yeah.
Final,
I mean, how many memes are there about the stuff like that? It's not.
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
I just number them. I never put final. I just number them, and when I look at them, I know the latest number was the last one. That's the one.
Oh, I end up getting.
I do it for that reason, because like, if you put final on something, you're pretty much guaranteeing that it's not going to be final.
Yeah, I know. I'm awful. Without Andy, where I could take stuff to him and say, look, can you help me finish this? I just wouldn't have got anything finished, because it was like, he was the one who was like, look, you need to clean this up and let's give it a master, and he would do something for me and help me. But I'm always going to be a writer at heart, and that stuff kind of ends up bogging me down. I do feel the same about you. You said like if you just sold it all now, like it would be soul crushing or devastating to you. I kind of went through the same thing. So when I came to terms with the thought of I'm just not doing this anymore, years had passed, and I hadn't touched Ableton, hadn't done any rock music or spoke to any of my rock friends, just kind of become a bit of a hermit. And I started to sell stuff, and I was really upset selling it. But I was like, well, what are you holding it on for? Because you're clearly not doing it. And it was only during COVID that actually, it was after COVID, I got a break because of COVID. And then somewhere along the way, like last year, I just thought I'm going to try and do something again. And I've come back into it, and it's got the joy I had when I was working with you in the first place, which got lost along the way. Yeah. Somehow, I'm just enjoying it, because it's not for anyone else. It's just for me, and no one can take anything away from me this time. It's just me enjoying it.
I mean, it's never been easier to do it all yourself. I mean, you don't have to, but nobody's pushing you, nobody's clock watching. You do it on your own terms, and you get to say, it's done when I say it's done. And if I say it's not done, it isn't.
All right. So when's your next recording coming out? What's next for you?
I'm doing the third album at the moment. it was. It's always supposed to be the difficult second album, isn't it? That's what they say. Well, my second album was really easy to do, although it was very delayed because unfortunately the label I was on folded. I had to find another home for it. This one I'm going to put out myself, and I think it will. It's definitely going to be on a proper Glassmaster CD, but I might do a limited run of vinyl as well, just to have a kind of a very limited collector's edition type thing. I know what it's called. I've got all the artwork. I've got more songs than I need. I'm just thinning everything down, figuring out which ones are going to be on it and which doesn't make the cut and what needs to happen to them. I've got a few new things and a few new ways of working that I want to make sure are on there just because it give it a bit more variety. But closing stages, I would say. But because it's not on a label, it's my schedule as well. So it'll be out when it's out. It's not impending yet, but it's pretty fully formed, I think. It's not that far. I just need to pull my finger out and spend more time on it.
And you do all the mastering yourself, everything.
This time, yeah. My early stuff I always mastered myself. Once a small label picked me up, they used to master that particular stuff. This time, again, I'll do it all myself. Unless I am doing vinyl, in which case I'll have a pro do a vinyl master, because that is definitely a skill, and it's one I don't have. And I know who I get to do it as well, because he's very good. He's done a lot of stuff I listen to. So, yeah, I would definitely get a professional vinyl master. But apart from that, I'll do it all myself.
Oh, bloody expensive getting vinyls done, though, isn't it?
It is very expensive, but it's also an ambition of mine. My second album was supposed to be on vinyl, but never ended up being. So it's something that I want to do. I've had one song on a compilation on vinyl before, but I want that full size artwork, you know.
It's special, isn't it, vinyl?
Yeah, I'm still buying stuff, you know, that things I really like, you know, I do still have on vinyl. I'm trying to keep it limited though, because I don't want to be one of those people who's got tons, literally, because it's heavy, of vinyl kicking around the house. I'd rather not be like that, but yeah, I do like having the odd special item. Because you know it's like trying to sell music now. It's been devalued so much that, you know, you kind of need to have a nice package together, something that, you know, something to love and look at, rather than just a file.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all changed. I don't think kids can understand what it was like looking at the sleeve and looking at the back and reading all the stuff and the excitement of really getting into the weeds of it. Just the actual packaging. You know, that's just
But even the major labels are picking it up now, and you can get, you know, you can get your Taylor Swift in 5 different color variants with, you know, art cards and lyric booklet and all the rest of that. So even they're beginning to realize now that people like to own their music, you know.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of things recently about people saying, do you know what, I don't use my streaming service as much anymore. I've just started, you know, word of mouth and buying things and really trying to appreciate things a bit deeper, rather than just going by related algorithm, just choosing what you listen to next. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I'll believe it because I've got a vested interest. It's what I want to believe. But
I know there's people out there that love, you know, love it. I just don't know. I think it's a hard sell to a new generation, you know.
Yeah, when they're used to having everything for free. But I also think, you know, there's the concept of 1,000 true fans. I don't know if you ever read about that, but I mean, apparently that's all you need for a comfortable living, is to find 1,000 people who are just totally into what you do. I'm not suggesting that there are 1,000 people that are that into what I do, but the idea goes that that's all you need, right? They can sustain you and provide a standard of living, and that's what you need. You don't have to conquer the world. You don't have to send sell billions and billions of units and do stadium tours if you don't want to. And I don't think that's necessarily me anyway.
These days,
So
these days though, they want you. You know, you're meant to be in charge of all your social media. It becomes a real chore, doesn't it? If you
it
want to
is.
do that.
It is.
Oh,
It doesn't feel like doing music much because most of it isn't.
no, exactly. It's a bit weird.
It
All right,
really isn't.
we've got five. We've got about what we got 5 minutes left, something like
Oh,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
I've got a question for you. Any
All right.
favorite plugins of 2025? Do you have any favorite software plugins?
God, do I? Um,
I'm so out of
I,
touch.
I don't know about this year per se, but there are plugins that I use more than others. Put it that way. I use Sound Toys plugins a lot. I've got their whole suite of stuff, but they've got pretty much everything from delays and plate reverbs and so on to like some awesome bit crushing and distortion, overdrive plugins, saturators. A lot of what I'm doing at the moment is trying to stop my music from sounding too out of the box, off the shelf. Everything is so pristine and digital if you think of it you know, by default. So I try and dirty up everything a little bit, or add a bit of a sheen to it to make it sound less, I don't know. It's one of the things I didn't like about my earlier stuff was it was just too absolutely pristine, clean, squeaky clean sounding. I wanted something a little bit more fuzzy, a little bit more faded, not necessarily going full lo-fi, but I do use tape emulation plugins. There's an Arturia one that I use that really helps to dirty things up a bit. Tape Mellow-Fi it's called, but that's quite an old one. I've got various recreations of classic effects units like the old Roland Space Echo.
Oh
I've
yeah.
got a few different ones of those. There's a soft tube one I use a lot. But I'm trying to get the most out of hardware at the moment. I've got a bunch of analog synths. I've got a few digital ones. I've got several samplers. I've got a couple of drum machine groove boxes. Looking around the studio, trying to run this, and I've got a load of modular synth gear as well.
Yeah, yeah. I nearly got into all that Euro rack
Behind me. Yeah,
Bloody hell,
that'll empty your bank quicker than
yeah.
anything else. That will. But
Yeah.
I like running like sound through that and have it come back weird and messed about with. So yeah, I don't know. I use Ableton stock plugins a lot.
Okay.
That's one of the things I like. The fact that you can be like an old mixing desk, like the Neves and the SSLs, where you've got a compressor and a limiter and EQ and everything, noise gate on every single channel. I do that on every arrangement. So everything, default channel strip, if you just bring up a channel, has all these things already on it with my settings. I saved them all like that so that I don't have to do it anymore. And they're switched off, so it doesn't hit your CPU unless you switch them on and use them. So I set up all my defaults like that in Ableton, and I use the stock Ableton plugins a ton. Valhalla Supermassive, if you want a free echo effect.
Yes, Valhalla. I remember those ones. And the Tau Reverb. There's a Tau Reverb too. Oh my God. I swear, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they're on
Serum
everything.
well. Did you ever use Serum?
Yes, I did. I'm not at the moment because there's a real sound to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you do start to sound like everyone else who uses Serum. You could say that about a lot of instruments, though, really. I mean, you could certainly say that about analog synths. I suppose it depends what you do with it that makes a difference. But I am looking at Serum too and thinking, it is pretty good. But at the same time, I'm looking at UE Diva, which is the one that Hans Zimmer uses all the time as well. And that sounds incredible, that does. It's a bit of a resource monster, I think, but it's absolutely a professional level soft synth. And I'm thinking about maybe getting that. But yeah, plugins. There are just so many of them, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm starting from scratch, so I don't know yet. I know I want to get ozone and things like that. All right, there's less than a minute left, so I think we should probably wrap up there.
Yeah, that's an hour in itself. That question.
I know, but it's been amazing. Thanks so much for doing this. It's been great
No,
catching
not
up.
at all. It's fun. It's great to catch up.